The National Guard's deployment against protesters in multiple cities has caused significant issues, both for protesters and also for the National Guard. And in particular, of course, the deployment against the protesters in D.C. just a couple of weeks ago. Well, we're finding out more about how exactly that situation came about, and there are some incredibly scary details here. So first, senior army leaders, apparently in an effort to prevent what they feared would be a calamitous outcome if President Trump ordered combat troops from the 82nd Airborne Division, holding just outside city limits, to the streets in anticipation of that D.C. clearing, leaned heavily on the Guard to carry out aggressive tactics to prove it could do the job without active duty forces. So Trump was freaking out. He wanted something done, and there were already people in the Republican Party pushing for the 82nd to be deployed, including Tom Cotton, I believe. And so apparently to ward that off, they decided to suggest the use of the National Guard, which they found to be not good, but preferable to just having, actual U.S. troops rampaging through the streets of D.C.
To prove it could do the job already reeks of the pitch job they had to do to get to Trump to not deploy the military. Or the active duty troops over their troops as opposed to the National Guard. And I'm not convinced that he would know the difference, to be honest.
If they just told him they were from the 82nd, he would probably buy that.
Because there's got to be some kind of bloodthirsty hawkishness in all generals, right? It's like people who are in charge of the military, but there also is like a shared understanding of what people call them out for wanting to do, and an understanding that all right, that might be a bridge too far, and all of those bridges too far were Trump is already crossing them when they're saying, okay, let's at least as a compromise deploy people who look like active duty military to these places so that we don't send active duty military out there.
Yes. Agreed. The ridiculous thing is, in the same way that we did a story earlier this week about how the Trump campaign was running $400,000 worth of ads in D.C. so that Trump would see them on TV. It's like the military is being deployed to placate not Trump's base, which wants to feel like he's taking control, but Trump himself. Such a weird way to run a country. A country that purports to be important.
And just a real quick discussion of competency. Trump, I would kind of understand. I would not respect, and I would be still frustrated, but I would understand if he doesn't understand the difference between two kinds of forces, right? National Guard and 82nd Airborne or whatever. But Trump himself is a television guy. He's a television star. And for him to not understand how television works, where you can hear him go how come it's not running on Fox? How come it's not running on Fox? And people, rather than explain to him, hey, Donald, we don't run them here because we're going to lose here. We want to run them in effective places. And him saying, no, spam the airwaves because it's not on Fox. And them going, rather than saying, oh, God, thank God that they only deployed the National Guard in this situation, as opposed to deploying the airborne, which is the equivalent of running those ads on his airwaves for no reason where they should absolutely not be.
Or for a reason, but the reason being that he is 100% incompetent, irrational, emotional. And that is demonstrated both before and after the clearing of those streets of D.C. So let's talk about the impetus for this. Mr. Trump was enraged by news reports that he had been moved on Friday night to a White House bunker because of the protests. He was alarmed and unsettled, read terrified. So he was scared of what was going on. He was scared of the perception of him being scared. And so he wanted something done. He wanted to dominate the streets. And so they did what they did. And we're going to show you in a minute how close it came to potentially a far higher death toll, because of course the National Guard did end up taking one life, although not in DC. But take a look at just this morning, Trump's continued perception of the National Guard. He had this to say: "Our great National Guard troops who took care of the area around the White House could hardly believe how easy it was. A walk in the park," one said. The protesters, agitators, anarchists, Antifa, and others were handled very easily by the Guard, DC Police, and SS. Great job.
Secret Service, SS. Say Secret Service. You don't want to say SS, but do you? But do you want to say the SS?
It's the Secret Service, I imagine.
Or
so he's
The German SS.
So he spoke with a soldier from the National Guard who said it was a walk in the park. I'll bet every single dollar I have that conversation didn't happen. But look at that. So they deploy thousands of National Guard troops to tear gas out peaceful protesters. And the country freaks out, like, what are you doing? How is this justified, this show of violence against peaceful protesters? And his reaction is, it was so easy to take them out. And it's not just weird that he's
they
like,
were just people.
Yeah, they're just people. They didn't have weapons.
And you shot tear gas at people.
Like
what? Yes, it was a walk, and it was more of a scurry in a park, a frightened panic in the park.
It was more
because
of like
they were getting shot at.
Shakespeare in the park. So here's the thing: it's that interesting.
No, just like, spear in the park.
Spear in the yes. So here's the weird thing: it's anarchists and Antifa, and they're violent and they're dangerous. They're so dangerous that if we don't dominate the streets, they're going to take out everything. These Dem governors are bowing down to them. They're taking over our cities. Also, super easy walk in the park to disperse them. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Also
which
low
is it?
It's all those things. And then also the implied low expectations for his own ability to do something that simple. Right? Mm-hmm. He's like claiming victory for something that anyone would look at and say like, wait, yeah, if you send the National Guard in to people who are holding not shields, but signs. They were holding cardboard graffitied shields. Mm-hmm. Like if you claim that too hard, you're admitting that you think you suck at this.
You expected to suck.
You expected it to be difficult. Of course, it's not going to be difficult. Only someone like Trump would think that would be a difficult operation, sending disproportionate force into a crowd of peaceful protesters mm-hmm. who had every right to be there. Yeah. And then not only gassing the people who were standing there, but also the people affiliated with the church who didn't know about it, who then were angry that you used them as a prop.
Yep.
It's all a nightmare.
And it's this weird thing. They need to present it as this, like, it's like Churchill surveying the damage, they said. And they said that it was a display of bravery to walk to that church. But wait, I thought it was super easy. It was just clear them out. Which is it? Which is it? Is he walking amongst the rubble, or was it super easy? It's all things at all times, because
his entire strategy or tactics for everything is like that. Mm-hmm. It's just throw as much gas and confusion at it to get people to either take cover who are on the other side of it, and be confused and create a fog of war and embolden the people who you are on the side of, and that's it.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.